All right, we're live. Another Wednesday night, HellaBass Live. What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining. We got the man as of late, Troy Diede, with us tonight. What's up, Troy? How's it going?
Good. How we doing, Rich?
Good. And if you guys didn't see the thumbnail, Troy caught a mammoth record-breaking smallmouth. Was it like 10 days ago now? What is it? How long?
Yeah, it was what was it, the 16th? Yeah, it was the 16th. So like 2 Fridays ago.
So anybody in the chat, let me know how's the audio for both Troy and I in the video. Make sure it's good before we get rolling too hard. What's up, Darius? How do we sound, buddy? Good to see you here. Darius has been sneaking up to Lake St. Clair a little bit, so he's probably no stranger to big smallies. And you catch some decent ones on Kentucky too. All right. So we'll break that down. I'm low and his is high. Let me try turning this up a little bit. It could be my mic was looking weird, so I tried going up a little bit, Doug, so let me know if that helped. Otherwise, I might just have to yell. Lance is in the house. What's up, Lance?
Oh, hey, Lance. Long time no talk. If that's the same Lance Hildebrandt that I know.
Yeah, I assume that's one of your South Dakota buddies, right? I believe Lance is from South Dakota.
Yeah, yep.
I don't know. My mic seems to be acting up, so. What's up, Sycamore? Nice. Yeah, people are rolling in. Cool. Before we get too far, I just want to thank Arsenal Fishing for supporting the stream and the channel. You guys know the drill. You guys can use code HellaBass15, support Arsenal as well as me and the channel. So, I don't know. It seems like my audio is not getting turned up when I turn the mic up. So, that's awesome. Maybe I'll just have Troy talk and I won't talk. So, Troy, why don't you start and let people know how we met or where we met? Give them the story since your sound is better than mine.
What's that? Where we met? Where I met Lance?
No, me.
Oh, where I met you. Okay, it's not about. Sorry, Lance. So Rich and I go back to 2014. We fished the Bass Nation National at where were we at? Duck Dynasty country, the Ouachita River. There we go. Yeah, so we fished that event together, and we just kind of stayed in contact. I suppose through social, and we've kind of ran into each other at a bunch of the regionals over the last 7 years now. So yeah, we just kind of stayed in touch. We're only 5 hours. You're up by the cities, right?
Yep, just south of the cities.
South of the city, so you're only about 4 hours from Sioux Falls, where I'm at.
Yeah, and so we actually fished the same northern regional, although I don't know that we really met other than we held plaques next to each other and maybe shook hands.
Oh yeah, Lake Monroe.
Yeah,
I forgot about Lake Monroe. That was well, there's some memories that you try and drown out those days where you're going for one fish. You come across the scales with one fish.
Your memory.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that was an event where Lake Monroe, Indiana. You go for one fish a day, and you're going to be in like the top 5. I fished for that's the same event where I lost. I had this old Skeeter boat, and I didn't do a very good job with preventative maintenance and whatnot. But on the way to that event, I lost my tire. It was a single axle trailer, and so yeah, I burned a spindle on that one. Had to replace my whole entire axle, and got there a day late, and then that day my UV or my U joint went out in my truck, and then I had a headlight go out, one of the nights, and then on the way to pick up my wife from, what was that town? Bloomington? I think it was like Bloomington where
Probably
the
the
airport
closest.
was. Yeah, I went into town. I was driving with one headlight, driving into town to pick up my wife, and I was like, I'll stop at Walmart or whatever, pick up a headlight. Well, so I'm driving through those curvy hills with one headlight. My other headlight goes out. So I'm driving with my fog lights. I can see like 12 foot in front of the truck. I'm just like, oh man, that was just one of those crazy events. And then I went like 4 practice days without catching a keeper fish. And that's when I was like, you know what? If I catch one fish a day at this event, one keeper fish, I might have a shot, because all the other guys were saying the same thing too. So it was pretty wild.
And did you fish as a non-boater in that, or you were? It was draw, but or did you fish as a boater?
I fished as a boater. Yeah, I had my skeeter.
Oh,
I had my skeeter boat.
Actually,
Yep.
no, but didn't you fish with Corey Brandt the last day? Did you catch a big one off a beaver hut behind the other?
Yeah,
that
I did.
was my buddy. Yeah, from Minnesota.
Oh, it was okay. Gotcha.
But he was the non-boater fishing in your boat, but he was taking his 4 hours at that time. And
Yep. I think that day that was one of the days I caught 2 fish. So I was on fire.
Yeah.
But 2 fish in that event was like more than most people caught in 3 days. So
yeah, I caught 7 in 3 days.
Oh yeah. That was the toughest lake I think I've ever fished.
But you know, the day you missed a practice was pretty good.
Well, of course.
Like, I would have had 19 pounds the first day of practice. Throwing a buzzbait. Like I was catching big ones on a buzzbait.
Whoa.
And a jig.
Yeah, that's what I caught my 2 fish on when I was fishing with your that Corey fella. I was throwing a buzzbait, and it was crazy. I threw that buzzbait like 46 times at that beaver hut, because there was not a lot to throw at on that lake.
Yeah.
And just all of a sudden, 6-pounder comes and woofs this buzzbait. So
I fished that beaver hut every day of the tournament.
Oh, did you? Yeah. Yep. It was
I got some good ones around it in practice.
Okay.
How's the audio now? Because I switched to my laptop mic, so the quality is not going to be as good, but hopefully the volume is better, and then we'll figure it out for next week.
Yeah, it bumped up quite a bit. I don't know if your audience can hear, but for me, it bumped up quite a bit.
Yeah, we got the Sassy Angler from the Midwest Angler Podcast. What's up, Scott? Bailey's in the house. What's up, Bailey? Nice. So yeah, that was cool. I mean, it was a grinder event. Not a single person. I don't think a single boater in the tournament caught a limit. Maybe there was. I don't think there was one. The high school teams, one of the teams from Illinois or Ohio, caught a limit together.
Yeah, they like 14 pounds or something, and we were all just like, what?
Yeah. So like it was like, I want to say 80-ish guys, give or take, for 3 days, and not a single limit. And only 7 guys caught a fish each day out of 80.
Yeah,
it's something like that. It was crazy.
Yeah, I remember. I think day 1 I caught 1, day 2 I caught 2, and day 3 I caught 1 or 2. I think I only had like 5 fish, and I tied for second in a regional event. So yeah, it was extremely tough.
Yeah, there was the guy that was leading Minnesota caught a 7.5 pounder the first day.
Yep.
And then he caught he caught 2 fish the first day, like a 7.5 pounder and a keeper, and he caught 1 the next day, and that put him at like 11 pounds. And I needed so I was like going into day 3, I was probably like 3rd or 4th, and I was like 3 pounds back, or 3.5 pounds back, and I caught, I think, 2 or 3 keepers the last day that would have been pretty much exactly, in my head it was like, if he zeros and like other people don't catch him, like that's exactly the weight I need. And I weighed in first, like on the team, and I took the lead, and I was like, well, that's great, but one of these other 5 guys is going to catch enough, and like everybody either zeroed or caught not quite enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I finished like 5th overall in the tournament or something like that.
Yeah, those are the tournaments where, I mean, that lake had big fish.
The Wednesday night before, it took like 26 pounds in a Wednesday night tournament or something like that.
Yeah, it was anybody's game at any point in time. I mean, you could come in with 0 fish on the first 2 days, go out and whack 17 pounds and win your state. It was just one of those legs.
So then we go down to the Watchtower River, and that's where we kind of like actually started talking and chatting and seeing each other at the hotel and riding the bus and getting to know each other a little bit. And then, like you said, we bumped into each other on the lake and at the weigh-ins and the meetings at probably, 3 or 4 regionals since then?
Yeah, somewhere around there. Yep.
We fished Monroe, I think back then would have been late August or early September, one of the two.
Yeah. I think it was in August. That's when they were holding those regional events. Because then the nationals was it November? I think it was the first week in November, because you didn't have a lot of time to prepare from regionals to nationals, because I was already running short on vacation time from work.
Yeah. And then you, I remember correctly, you moved on. You went to the Classic that year, right?
Yeah. Yep.
That was Hartwell?
That was Hartwell. Yep.
Nice.
That was I might as well have packed my ice shack for that one.
was that the one that was the record-breaking?
Yeah.
Well, you should be used to that. You're from South Dakota. You should
yeah. Well,
advantage.
When it's 9 degrees out, we usually have an ice shack in tow. Not a boat. When they say, "Hang on, we're gonna before we put your boat in the water, we're gonna rock it back and forth." So what are you gonna do? We're gonna rock it back and forth. You're gonna rock my boat back and forth, okay? Yeah, all the boats are froze to the trailers. They can't get them off. So it took like a half hour for the first couple guys to get their boats. The carpet just adhere as soon as it froze up. It just adhered to the gel coats on the boats, and it just floated the trailer. And the guys couldn't get them off. The water was like 39 degrees, and it was like starting to skim over in a bunch of areas.
Right.
It was wild. You drive all the way from, North Country here, all the way down to Hartwell, South Carolina, and you're thinking, oh yeah, 50s, 60s, maybe some 70s. Now, how about single digits in an ice storm?
Yeah, nice. But that one didn't go the way you wanted. I feel like that happens to a lot of guys in their first Classics. That doesn't. How was that? Like, I mean, was that like big stage? Do you feel overwhelmed? Did you just not have the right deal? Like, what? Without dwelling on 7 years ago, what was the Classic experience like?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the competitor inside was kicking and screaming. I couldn't put anything together. Practice, I had one really good day where I had, about 18, maybe 19 pounds. But once that cold front hit, I was uneducated. I didn't know how to make adjustments. Mm-hmm. And so that really, from a, going across the stage standpoint, that really hurts to come across, with 0 fish. But hey, it's the Classic. To get there is it's an honor. It is definitely overwhelming. I wasn't prepared for that at all. And I don't know that you ever really fully are. I guess if I make it back someday, maybe we'll see if I'm a little better suited to make a run at it. But it's just an amazing experience. They roll out the red carpet for you, and just the type of people you get to meet. It's yeah. And then to fish right next to some of the people you watched, when you were a kid. You're rubbing shoulders with them and be like, it's hard not to be, kind of starstruck, but it's a pretty cool experience. I hope I get back someday.
Yeah. Well, you've been knocking at the door. I mean, kind of like me, we keep seeing each other. Have you made a national since then?
No, I made, not on the bass side. I've made 2 on the Federation side. But not on the bass side yet. I usually get in the cut. I usually squeeze in the day 3 cut, and then I've ended up second a couple times, and I think I ended up third once.
Yeah.
And so I've come close. I haven't got back yet, but I'm still trying.
Well, you got another shot here in what, a month?
Yeah.
In
We'll
the
be
cross. So
just downriver from you.
I'm still waiting for somebody to back out so I can join you down there. But
You are you an alternate?
I'm the 11th
Right?
guy right now. So,
Ah,
which there's only
gotcha.
11 guys in South Dakota, so that's not. It's
Yeah, we pretty much we just draw out
yeah,
of a hat. We don't
yeah.
even hold a state championship or nothing. So
Since D is pretty high in the alphabet, you pretty much make it every year. So
every year, it's like it's almost a default.
but I suppose maybe we should talk about this smallmouth. Um, that's probably what people really want to hear about. So we said it was the 16th, like maybe before, but like, and then the day before, like maybe before we like get to that, the day before, you caught your PB smallie, right?
Yeah,
Is that what I heard?
that's what a lot of people don't know is the day before. That's really kind of where it started, was on that Thursday. It was late Thursday, and I was catching fish. We were pre-fishing for the Bass Federation State Championship, and we were catching fish, just weren't really dialed into the right caliber of fish. So there's me and another buddy. His name's Justin Heidinger. I think I've seen his name scroll across here. I call him Dinger, but he had a buddy fishing with him. He had a co-angler fishing with him, and I had a co-angler fishing with me. And so we kind of work together and bounce a lot of things off each other. And so I kind of know, I have an idea what else, what's all going on out there between the two of us. We usually put the pieces of the puzzle together fairly accurate. And I knew that I was not on the right stuff, so I was just kind of throwing Hail Marys out towards the end of the day on Thursday, and come on this one spot. I'm like, all right, I'll give it a shot, and hook into this nice fish, and get it in, and when I'm looking at the scale, I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing's over 6 pounds. It's like 6.39. And just then my buddy Dinger rolled up, and I told him I just caught a tanker smallie, and I dropped it in the live well so I could snap some more pictures. And so we got some pictures. Totally forgot about taking any, like I thought about, like, hey, I should have took girth measurements,
Right.
more measurements in case I wanted to get a replica made. I totally spaced it out. We took some pictures and let the fish go. And I was a little bummed out because it was just like 0.04 pounds short of my dad's personal best fish. So I was like, dang, I come close, but didn't quite get him. So, and at the end of the day, Dinger was saying, man, that could be the fish of a lifetime. You could fish for the rest of your life and never catch a fish like that ever again. So
except for maybe tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I just went, got done. We just called it a day after that, and went back to the campsite. And later that night, I was like, God, I got to get on electronics and do some map studying and try and figure out why that fish was where it was, and just see if it was an area thing, if it was an actual like contour that fish was focused on. So I just plugged in 4 or 5 or 6 new waypoints for the next day, and went out the next morning. Well, we tripped the breaker on the cabin, so my batteries didn't get charged, so we ended up kind of hunkered down for a couple extra hours at the cabin trying to charge the batteries. And so we were a couple hours late to get on the water Friday morning.
Yeah. So
And
when you said you were doing the map study, were you doing like contour shading and like what was? Maybe give a little more on that, like what you were looking for and what you did there.
Yeah. So really, what I did, so I run the Lowrance HDS lives, and with the default mapping tool is CMaps, and so within that you can basically custom color shade all your chartography.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did was I figured out where that fish was at, and then I changed that key depth I changed the transition from like 16 to 20 foot. I changed it to like a hot pink color. And then anything over about that 20 foot, I changed to a white. And so really what that did was it really made those areas pop. So you look on a map and everything else is kind of dark colored until you get to the hot pink and the white. And in those transition areas, that's where in that hot pink and that white color, that's where I found them fish were really, really stacked up. And that's what I focused on, the rest of my practice. And then during the tournament, that's what I focused on as well.
Yeah. And I've been doing the same thing with Lake Master for years. Like when I go to especially the bigger bodies of water, right? Like you fish the little puddles around your house. I don't think it's quite as valuable, but when you're going to these bigger places where we have regionals and state tournaments where you've got, it seems like, yeah, like you find, on the largemouth lakes, if you find, you get bit in the grass and 14 feet, right? Or 17 feet or whatever it is, typically, unless the lake or the clarity or something changes in different sections of the lake, you can kind of highlight like, okay, I was 17, maybe I'll go plus or minus 2 feet, right? I'll highlight 15 to 19 and put that green, and you'd be like, all of a sudden, like things just like, oh, that hump, right, has a huge green flat, right? Or or this point makes a nice swing, right? And it like really makes things obvious where those key fingers, swings, coming off flats that have that depth area that works. And you can be surprised how quickly you can pattern and run fish and find new water that way.
Absolutely. And two, you can, like you say, them smaller lakes, it's a little tougher. A lot of the small lakes we got around here are just soup bowls. We really don't have a lot of contour. But you get on a lake you get on the river in general, on the Missouri River, especially Lake Oahe. You got 370,000 surface acres of water to try and break down. So it's not like you can, open a map and put it on your kitchen table and try and look and see what you got. I mean, you can, but it's just a small chunk and a small snippet of the river. So to be able to do that from, a digital stance, a digital means, you're able to really just dial in and zoom in on those areas and really see. And they darn near, once you get the pattern dialed in, you get that depth contour set, it almost jumps out at you. It just breaks it down. You can look at the mouth of a bay or whatever and be like, okay, well, right here's where I need to be. And you can put a waypoint there and go there, and within 30 yards of that waypoint, all of a sudden you catch a fish. And then okay, well, the pattern, you can just run that pattern, upriver, downriver, or on a lake.
Yeah, or you're like running back and you're like, hey, I got 20 minutes left, and all of a sudden you're like within sight of the landing, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, look at this bright pink area over here. I'll just swing in there.
Yep. Use every last minute. And a lot of times the fish are, if you're catching them, if you've got a key depth where they're at, it might not matter exactly. You might not have a specific section of the lake that you're going to catch all your fish on. They might be just completely scattered in a random stop. You never know when that fish is going to pull up, especially this time of year when a fish is going to pull up out of 60, 70, 80 foot of water, and it's feed time. And so if you got that extra 5 minutes or that extra 10 minutes, at the end of the day to stop and make some casts, you can, like you said, you can just look on the map quick and be like, hey, I'm going to spend it right here.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was day one of practice, and then you've got all these new waypoints for day two, in a huge amount of confidence, probably all of a sudden. Like, how did your day two unfold, and how did it lead to the new PB?
Yeah, so like I said, we got out a little bit late, and I passed on the way down to this area. I was like, all right, I'm gonna start about where I caught that 6, and see if it's an area thing, and see if I can just, set up a milk run on these, on these little mini points that are coming out. And so I ran downriver. I passed my buddy Dinger on the way. He was kind of sitting in some calm water, and come around the corner of the river, headed downstream, and got on the same area, just probably 300 or 400 yards away from where I caught the 6, and I didn't make 10 casts, and I hook into this giant, and I didn't really know until about probably 90 seconds into the fight when things, it started to kind of come together that, hey, this might be another big big smallmouth. But you just never know. I mean, sometimes them 3-pounders, they give you a run for your money. They're just strong, crazy strong fish. But it was setting up, the way it was fighting, I was kind of like, okay, this could be another big one. And it come across what they were doing was they would just kind of skirt across the top of the water, and they couldn't jump, or maybe they just didn't want to. I don't know. But it would just swim. It would just turn sideways, and it would just slowly just kind of glide across the top of the water. And there was nothing I could do. I was throwing, I could just hold pressure on them. Is all I could do. I was finesse fishing. 7-pound test, gamma touch, fluorocarbon. So I wasn't gonna manhandle this fish, and it just took a while. It was probably 2.5 minutes, and I knew that once it come across the top of the water, I knew that, okay, it's probably a 5-pound plus fish. And the closer it got, I got it within about 15 yards, and I was like, oh, it's maybe this looks like it could be a pretty healthy 5. And then once it was about 10 yards away from the boat, I kind of realized that, hey, this is up over the 6-pound class. And then once I got it, of course I didn't have a net, so I reached down, once, do the whole belly landing experience. Once I reached down and I picked it up, and I'm just holding it under my arm like a football, and I just looked down at this thing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing is an absolute giant. And I was like speechless, and I started shaking right away. Like I was just in awe, I was like, what in the world is going on, And I grabbed the scale out, because I was like, this could be, bigger than the one I caught yesterday, and it looked bigger, and got it on the scale, and it was pretty choppy that day, so it was like bouncing around between 7.08 and 742. And so I'm like, I can't get my scale to lock. So I fill live loads up, pump the oxygenator on high, run upriver around to where I got back into calm water. And that's where I had passed Dinger at earlier in the day, and figuring maybe he was still there. And he wasn't there, but got over there, I weighed it, and on my hand scale it locked at 7.23. And I was like, whoa, that's like right there. I knew the state record was like, I couldn't remember what it was actually. I was like, I knew it was like 7.2 or 7.4, maybe 7.3. I couldn't remember.
Right.
And I'm like, I was asking my co-angler, I'm like, what do we do? And there's Eric Storms. He jumped on. Thanks, Eric. Yeah. Asking my buddy Dinger, I was like, I called him up. I didn't even tell him what happened. I just called him up, and I was stumbling, trying to find words. I just asked him, hey man, can you do me a huge favor? And he's like, is everything okay? I was like, yeah, everything's okay. I'll could you come over where I passed you earlier? And he's like, okay, I'll be right over. So he comes up, and his co-angler is his name is Ron, and he's like, what'd you do? Call us over here to tell us you caught a 7-pounder now? Yeah, I guess so. I I don't know what's going on. It shows over 7 on my handheld scale. It's just I don't know. I don't know if my scale's messed up or what, but so we put it on my buddy's put it on Dinger scale, and it was to the 100th of a pound is 7.23 is what it locked on his hand scale. And we sat there for about, I don't know, 20 minutes probably. Just, I'm like, what do I do? I'm pre-fishing for a tournament. I had registration later that night. I'm still trying to like dial into the pattern.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to waste a bunch of time, but if this is a state record fish, I don't want to, I don't know if I want to pass that opportunity if it's there. And those guys that were with me, they pretty much were the ones that said, hey, if you don't do this, if you don't make a call, you might regret this for the rest of your life. And that's when I knew, like, I had to make a call in and figure out what I needed to do.
So what do you think is the more improbable thing, that you caught a 7-pounder or that your cell phone was able to make a call on Oahe?
well, it's yeah. It is not known for great cell phone reception in that area, but I will say this: if you're west of the 212 bridge, a few miles, there is a little bit of cell coverage. It'll drop in, drop out, but you can still, you can still make calls and whatnot. But beyond that, like, no, there's nothing. You're on your own.
Nice. Yeah. So so you were able to make a call. You called the Fish and Wildlife or whatever in South Dakota, and they met you somewhere, or how's that all work?
Yeah. So the way it works is, and we didn't know, and I didn't know this. So this was all new for me. But if you guys ever get in a situation where you think you might have a state record fish, one of the things that you need to do is find a place that has a state certified scale. And most bait shops have a certified scale. There'll be a little calibration sticker on the side of the scale, and that sticker has to be up to date. It cannot be out of calibration. It cannot have an expired calibration date on it. Right. Most of your bait shops have those. The other thing that the other place that has those types of scales are typically grocery stores. So a lot of times those grocery stores have those scales for weighing produce. So that's another option, but you have to find a place that has a state certified scale. And when you go to weigh that fish, it needs to be recorded. On video. Yep. So the gal at the bait shop there at South Whitlock, she took a video of it, and my buddy Dinger, he videotaped the whole thing as well. The second part of the process is that you have to meet with a state game fish and parks biologist, and he doesn't need to be there to see anything on the scale. He just needs to be there to basically verify that, hey, you did catch what you say you caught. It was a smallmouth bass. So he just comes, identifies the fish, and then he fills out, that's the guy that does the official state record paperwork. And then he goes back to the bait shop and watches the video of it being weighed and all that stuff. So that's really all there is to it. It was probably I'd say about a 2-hour process, somewhere right around there. So it really wasn't too bad. I didn't lose a ton of time. It's maybe like 2.5. It probably could have got trimmed down to 2 hours if we didn't take so many pictures, but I want to make sure we had a lot of pictures. And then I got a really cool picture. I seen you throw it across the screen there, me and the 4 buddies, or the 3 buddies that I had with me. So yeah, that's my buddy Dinger to the right with the sunglasses on, and then on the way right is Jefferson Lehman, and he's the guy that was the sales rep for Toe Tector for quite a few years, but he's my pre-fishing partner this year. And then on the way left is Ron Dillon. He's a Nebraska guy. And so it was kind of a conglomeration of effort between, the four of us to get this thing in and weighed and certified and all that stuff. So it was just awesome to have, all three of them guys along with me on this. It just made the memory that much greater.
Yeah. Cool. And so, did they always have like a biologist on, like, were you just fortunate he was working that day, or is there like a plethora of those? And I mean,
no. So the local biologist was out of the office that day. He wasn't working. So the gal at the bait shop, Jessica, she got a hold of. She had a call down to Fort Pierre, which is I can't remember. It's probably like an hour and 20 minutes, maybe like an hour and a half, maybe. So that guy, that biologist, had to drive up to, he met me at the 212 bridge ramp because I wanted to keep it in the boat and keep fresh water running on it, and keep this thing alive so I could take it back out and release it.
Yeah, awesome. So what were the measurements like on this? How long? What was the girth?
The measurements, so the girth was 19 and a quarter. The length was 20 and 3/4. And I don't remember what the tail and gill plate were, but
yeah, but no, that's cool. Yeah.
Yep.
It's an impressive fish in the summer, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, this, had this fish been caught 2 months, pre-spawn, it's well into the 8-pound. And it was pretty thick to begin with. I mean, I was looking at it going, I wonder if this thing didn't even lay eggs. It might just be absorbing them. I don't know. But they were chasing big bait. I mean, they were chasing big herring, like 10-inch herring. And we caught a couple, even like 3-pound fish that had big, giant herring tails sticking out of their gullet because they couldn't get it. The bait fish were so long, they couldn't get the whole bait fish down in their gullet. So there was, a good 2 to 3 inches sticking out of the back of their throats a lot of times when you get them in.
So has the herring always been there, or is that kind of a newer thing, or?
I'm not real sure about that. I don't know when they introduced it into the fishery, but it seems like right now there's a lot more of them. We were watching them. It was kind of funny because you get in a couple areas and all of a sudden you just see this 8 to 12 inch bait fish screaming across the top of the water, and right behind it was like 3 to 5 pound smallmouth hot on its tail, just chasing as fast as they could. It's like, and it was like you cast to them and they wouldn't hit nothing. They were just focused on that bait fish. I mean, it was and you couldn't pick up a line fast enough to get to them. They were just hauling the mail.
Yeah, so we had Lyle on like a month ago talking about, right, and this was his pre-spawn smallie.
Yep.
Can you imagine if yours was that thick?
Yeah, I mean, if it was that thick, it would have been, oh gosh, probably 8.5 pounds.
Yeah, that'd be nuts.
I don't know. And those, and where Lyle caught his, those, Horseshoe Lake, I guess it's no secret, but those fish feed on the rustic crawfish.
Sure.
Those crawfish, there's millions upon millions of those crawfish in there. And in the summertime, in the early summer, you can walk. I mean, the bottom of the lake it looks like it's alive. I mean, they're crawling everywhere. So those fish don't have to go very far to get to eat at all. And then they're, up in that area too, ever since I can remember, I've been fishing it for about 15 years, but the leopard frog population it's unlike anywhere I've seen. I mean, you drive the roads at night, that black asphalt road on a cool night, there'll be thousands upon thousands of frogs just jumping everywhere. You can hear them bouncing off your vehicles. Just it just gets crazy thick up there. So them fish, there's no food shortage going on where you know, up in them glacial lakes of South Dakota, up in the northeast part of the state.
Nice. Yeah. So back to the catch. So you said you're using light line.
Yep.
We throwing a drop shot, a Ned.
Yeah, I was throwing a Ned. I was throwing the Eco Pro Tungsten Ned head, 7-pound test Gamma Touch line, and the Dobbins 701 Sierra, and as a lose Custom Pro 200. Just had to wear that thing out. There was not a whole lot you can. Yeah, there's not a whole lot you can't just reel them in like you're throwing, you know, 14-pound or 16-pound test on a, you know, on a Magnum tube or something like that. That was another thing. That was kind of my backup tactic, was throwing Magnum tubes. That's something I like to do there. But
straight floral or braid to floral?
Braid to floral. Yeah. 10-pound braid to 7-pound floral. Yeah, 10-pound braid, 7-pound floral.
And how long a leader do you like for your Ned?
Yeah, I like to just get right inside, in between that first big eyelet and the reel. I don't like to reel the knot down into the spool.
5, 6 foot.
Yeah, probably about 6 foot. You know, maybe just probably right at about 6 foot. Yep.
All right, we got some biology. I guess it says the herring are up and the smelt are down. Stocked in the 80s. Interesting.
Yeah, there's Dinger bringing us some good info.
So what weight are you using to get down to 16 to 20 feet on your Ned?
I'll go as light as 10 ounce.
Okay.
But I was just toggling back and forth between a 10th and a 6th. If I needed to, you know, if I seen some fish busting, I'd pick up that 6th, or if I was in just a little bit deeper than that 20 foot, if it was windy or whatever, I'd pick up that 6th, so I can get somewhere in a hurry. Otherwise, that 10th really takes a long time to get down to where them fish are at. But sometimes that slower rate of fall is what I've learned that'll trigger some of the better quality fish.
So that the 701 is kind of an interesting choice. Like, that's surprising.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I bought a 701 to use as a hair jig rod.
Yep.
But for like my Neds and all that stuff, I use the 2-power. So it's interesting that you choose any reason you like the 1-power, or what's the?
Yeah. So let me tell you a little story here about the last year that everybody in the marine world has faced. Everybody in every world has faced, I guess, part shortages, right? We've all had part shortages. So last year, all year, I threw a 692, the Sierra Micro 692. I threw it all year long, caught a ton of fish on it. And at the end of the year, I kind of just unloaded all my stuff. I was like, all right, I'm going to start with new, fresh stuff. Well, shoot, there was nothing in stock. And so I'm like, man, I was waiting for the 6.
Maybe I should have checked before I sold my stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't very smart. I mean, it was just one of them things where I was like, all right, I'm going to start with all new gear. And so I sold off a lot of my stuff. And I was like, oh man, I love that 692. And there was nothing. I mean, I don't even know if the 692 it's still, I don't think it's been out of stock for like 9 months. And the next closest thing I seen come on was that 701. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try that 701. And the thing that I've really learned about it that I really like is to get that cast out there. It's that extra. You wouldn't think 3 inches on a rod doesn't make much of a difference, but I'm going to tell you, it does big time. It makes a big time difference. It'll be at least a 10, maybe even a 15-yard difference on a cast. Not that that's what I was focused on, was making long casts, but if I seen the fish across the top of the water chasing bait fish, I was at least making a cast to see if I could get one going. But that 692 is one of the rods that I use all last year. Love the rod, drop shot or Ned. I mean, and you could do the same thing with the 701. I found that the 701, I thought maybe I'd sacrifice a little bit of sensitivity going with a longer rod and just a little bit lighter, a lighter power. But really, I don't. I haven't found that I've lost any sensitivity. You don't have to really, even just hanging it over the edge of the boat, you really don't. A lot of times you want to be a line watcher or watching the tip of your rod, but you can just, as long as you keep a finger on the blank, you feel it every time.
Yeah, no. So if anybody has a 692, you can hit Troy up on Facebook.
692 micro. Has anybody got a 692 micro? I'd give you some decent bucks for it right now.
Awesome. Yeah, that's good. But yeah, I think. So is the 701's not a micro, is it?
No.
Yeah.
Nope. It's not. Nope. That 692 is just. I mean, it just feels like. It just feels right in your hand. I mean, there's just something. I mean, you can. There's a lot of rods like, oh yeah, that this one feels comfy. This one's super comfy. And the 701, it feels comfy, but that 692 in the micro, I mean, it's so light, so aerodynamic. It doesn't, you don't have like a lot of wind drag or anything. It's there in your hand. It's crazy sensitive, and it's effortless to maneuver around, to just flip baits out if you're drop shotting or if you're just Ned rigging and hitting little small targets, just boom boom boom, super easy, super fast, accurate, just feel everything. I just so when that comes back on, I'm gonna have to clean them out this time.
Yeah, I don't know. All my spinning rods are 7 or 7.4. Like, I like the longer rods for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, if you get a wild hair, I mean, even if you do any shoot, I've taken that 692 like crop. We do a lot of like light jigging for walleye in the early spring, and that works really well for that. It's just an all around beat down rod. I mean, I've caught several 5-pound fish on it. It's a workhorse. But that 701 is still in the shoes for now. I've definitely grown to like it, and it'll probably keep a place in the rod locker, going into the future. So I'll hang on to it.
If you cut the front guide off, you could probably turn it into a 692.
Well, maybe if I slam it in the rod locker.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you accidentally break the tip off, maybe throw a tip on it, you might find that it's just like the 692. But, maybe that's why I keep I have like an abundance of Dobbins rods that are like 6 to 10 years old, and I just pretty much use them until they like die or I break them or something, and then I replace them. So.
Yep.
Cool. And so you seem pretty tight-lipped about the bait. You got a secret bait for Oahe that you're not talking about.
I do. I mean, it's obviously a plastic that I put on the Ned rig. It's something that I've done real well with on Oahe. So I'm not going to give that out, but it's definitely a plastic, bait fish mimicker.
So is it a traditional plastic or an elastic plastic?
Elastic.
Okay. That should get people. They can start to that narrows it down, right?
Yep.
Nice. And are you throwing would you say more of like a green crayfish brown or more of a bait fish color?
More of a bait fish.
Okay, there you go. Cool. So then I guess you went back out and practiced in the afternoon? Did you dial in? What did you learn in practice after you got done with the shock and awe of becoming a holder?
Yeah, so I went back out, practiced, I think a gosh, probably, I think I had maybe like 4 hours, maybe 4 hours left. So took the fish back out to the exact same spot that I caught it. And then I just really stuck around that area and tried to dial in some other, similar, similar contours that set up, like where I caught that 6 and that 7. And I didn't catch any, fish of that caliber, but I did catch one about 4.5 and a few 3s. And I'm like, okay, well, I think I found a decent starting area, or one of the areas I want to focus on. And then I just kind of branched out from there and tried running some other stuff that I hadn't, some of the traditional stuff, like the Mark Daniels Jr. spots from a couple of years ago. Those seem to hold fish, this time of year, that just that part of the river, that summer pattern holds true.
Yeah. So then 2 1-day qualifiers, right? There were 2 separate tournaments you had.
Yeah. It was the way South Dakota, the Bass Federation does it is they do a state championship and a trail rolled into one event. So you could pay to fish both the trail and the state championship. You could try, that way you had 2 avenues to try and qualify, either through the points race on the trail, or through, the top standings on the state side. So yeah, it was 2 events rolled into one. I ended up second. I ended up second on day 1, and then I think like 4th or something on day 2. And overall in the state championship side, I ended up second for total combined weight. And then on the Angler of the Year, I ended up winning the Angler of the Year on the trail side on the points race.
So that double qualify you for semis?
Yeah. Yep. And I had actually qualified already before this event, because they have a deal where if you win one of the trail events, you are automatically qualified for the semifinal. So I had won an event earlier in the year at Big Stone. I think that was like back in June, maybe early June. I think we had a 2-dayer out there, and I won one of the days. So I was already qualified. I just needed a couple strong finishes to try and make up some points. I was a little bit down on the points on the AOI, and so yeah, yep.
So what kind of weights did it take to win out on Oahe?
Yeah, so Brock Bielik, he is that guy is a pretty stout fisherman on the river, really anywhere, but he was pretty dialed in what was going on. And it was kind of funny because Brock found the same fish I found pre-fishing. So we were
rotating spots.
Yeah, we were right next to each other. We weren't playing bumper boats, but we were right next to each other the majority of the 2 days. So he had one stretch that had really good numbers of fish, and he's got the Panoptics dialed in. I was fishing off a 2D quite a bit, but you could tell by day 2 they're feeling some pressure in those areas. But that Panoptics, that's really a big player. That forward scan technology is a huge player on the river right now, and that's going to be tough to beat. You don't have grass, you don't have much for trees. It's and it's summertime. Them fish, they're suspended up, and not all of them, but a lot of them are suspended up. And when you can just scan around and see what's out 100 foot to the left, 100 foot to the right, and watch the arrow and know exactly where to cast, that's the deal. So that's going to be huge when the elites come here next year.
So no active target on your boat?
Actually, I just this week got the active target installed. I've had mine on back order since February, March. I don't know. Navico is way backed up. when I talked to him back in February or March, the guy that I talked to, he said they were 10,000 orders behind. So I don't know if there's like if there's some sort of chip or something that they were short on, or who knows. I mean, it's part shortage in the industry, which we've all faced. So actually, me not being very smart, I just stuck it out like, okay, well, it'll get here. But I didn't think of it until a bit later. I was like, you know what? Maybe I should call the guys at the Bass Tank and see if I just signed on with them this year. Maybe they could flip me a unit, because all the retailers got them in now. Probably like 2-3 weeks ago.
Can I trade you for one that's coming?
Yeah. That's, I talked to John Soak up at the Bass Tank, and he treated me really well. Just said, hey, just send me your unit when it comes in. We'll get you one so you can get going. And the semifinal is coming up next. What is it? September, I think, on Okoboji. So I don't know if it'll be a player there, but I got a lot of learning to do. I'll tell you that much. I took it out yesterday and kind of played around with it, and man, I got some things to learn. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. So I don't know. Did you say what were the winning weights? Was it like 20 pounds, 22
yes,
pounds?
It was 20. It was 21 pounds. Brock had 21 pounds, just steady Eddie. 21 pounds day one and 21 pounds day two, and he ran away with it. I mean, I came in second, and I was like, I don't even remember. I was like 6 pounds or 5 pounds behind him.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I had like 19 something on day one. Unfortunately, I had a dead fish, and it cost me half a pound. And then day two, I had a dead fish, so it cost me half a pound. And but yeah, he was dialed in.
Yeah, so a couple things. I ordered a Mega 360 in March that I'm still waiting on. And then I just got done fishing a tournament on Green Lake and Spicer, which is out west of the cities, and it was dominated by guys with live scope.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's one of those things, especially on these bodies of water. These bodies of water that don't have a lot of vegetation, or a lot of the the timber and whatnot. Even with timber, I mean, the live scope comes in super handy. So you can just pan around and see them within it. But with these open bodies of water, or fish are up on rock piles or anything like that, I mean, that technology is just, I mean, it's hard. It's pretty tough to beat. I'm surprised it's not outlawed yet.
I'll say that. Like, because I actually heard a story not that long ago that these trail cams got outlawed in Arizona for hunting.
Really?
So I mean, when you hear something like that, that scares me. Like you could see local legislation against. I mean, that's not much different than aquaviews or forward. I mean, like if they can do that, right? Like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Well, congratulations. If I didn't mention that before, what a great fish.
Thanks.
So kind of Oahe, right? You said 21 pounds a day. I forget. Is it late, same time of year, or is it early August that the elites are coming?
I think it wasn't it late? It's sometime in August. I can't remember. I think it was maybe later.
Similar time range. So I mean, right? So I mean, I think 70 to 80 pounds, if they get decent weather, could be very realistic.
Absolutely. I mean, it's going to take. I mean, later in the year it gets, it's just going to get better and better and better. Then fish are just going to be feeding up. I wouldn't be surprised if we see over 80 pounds.
Yeah, unless they get some bad wind days where they can't.
If they get some bad wind days, you're going to see weights diminish. But I mean, it's Oahe. It's got. I mean, it's healthy right now.
On the climb, right? Like it's getting better, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's been getting better. Oh my goodness, probably. I mean, it used to put it this way. In 2011, I won my first state championship as a co-angler, and my average fish over the course of 2 days in that state championship was under 3 pounds for my average fish. So that was 2011, and we probably started seeing some 20-pound bags start to come in about 2016, somewhere right in there. 2000, somewhere around
TBF Northern
20
Divisional, right?
Yeah, yep, 2015, 2016, right in there. We started seeing bags coming in, right close to that 20 pounds, if not just a touch over. And it's just getting more and more. We had a tournament there this spring, and there was guys bringing in 22 pounds. I think Eric Storms was on here a little while ago. He had a big bag this spring. He had 21 something, I think. And then day 2 of that tournament, there was a guy that had 22 something. So I mean, it's just getting, part of me is like, well, maybe it's the electronics are starting to be a little more of a player, helping guys pick fish out. But I really think that the bait fish population that's coming around is really, really ramping up the size of the fish. I mean, everything's healthy. You catch, the walleye that you catch are healthy. The salmon are healthy. The smallies, they seem even only being, a month past spawn. I mean, the smallies they're pretty well fed back up. I mean, there's not a lot of them that have, that concave belly anymore. They've already found enough food to kind of fill right back out, and they only get bigger as the fall goes on. So, I'll throw this out there, but I mean, somebody might catch like a 24 or 25 pound bag in that event. We haven't seen it yet at the state level, but it's definitely possible. I mean, you put a 6 pounder and a couple 5s in your, in the boat, and a couple 4s, and hey, you're right there.
So in your guys' tournament, did you guys go out of pier, or did you go out of up, or where?
So this last event, we went out of West Whitlock, which is, to give you guys some sort of relevant location. If you go in between like Pier and Mobridge, it would be like a little past halfway. So it's about it's right where the 212 bridge pretty much crosses the river.
Right in the juice.
Which yeah, it's like it's right in the heart of the river, right in that bend, I call it the Z, Yeah, I call it the Z. The river just kind of makes a Z there. So it's down from Mobridge. I don't know, probably might be about 35 miles down from Mobridge, and up from like Spring Creek, where we normally launch. Yeah, there you go. There's a good map.
Spring Creek is way down here, right?
Yeah, yep. Spring Creek is there, and Mobridge is where
that's where they were last time the elites went, right? And that's where a lot of tournaments.
Yes, yep. That's where we launched out of. That's where the elites launched out of for that event in 2019, and right where you have that white dot is about where. That's West Whitlock right there, and so that bend right in there where that river makes a Z, right in there. There's a lot of areas right in there that hold fish. So I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of those elites that launch out of Mobridge. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of those guys end up making that run, that 35-mile run from Mobridge on down to get down, around that 212 bridge. But there is some good areas up around Mobridge. It's not out of the question to put together a 17 to 19 pounds right out of Mobridge. I haven't spent a lot of time up there, but I've seen some fish up there to know that there can be some pretty good bags weighed in. I don't know if you can do it 4 days in a row. I don't know if a tournament could be won out of the Mobridge area, and I haven't spent a lot of time north, so I can't educate you too much on that. But that southern part, that central part of the river there around the Whitlocks area, it's got some fish.
But the one thing is, Mobridge is quite a bit closer to this area than Spring Creek is.
Oh, absolutely.
And I know when I fished there, like the good fishing started about right here.
Yep. At the mouth
And
mouth of the Cheyenne. Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
and then this first bend, and then even up here, and like my bass cat being older, I really couldn't fish much past about right here and get
Oh,
back.
you run out of gas?
Yeah, because like you can tell them, there's literally not a gas station between here and here.
No.
There is not a single marina between there and
No.
there on this system where you can get gas.
Right. Right. Yeah, and just to give you guys a little reference from where, from about where Rich has his mouse to just go up like an inch there, Rich, right where the river kind of dips. Go up a little further. Okay, down, right at the lowest point where the loop is, right there. Yep, that's called Bush's Landing. So to get from where the mouse was to where the mouse is now, that stretch of river, that's a 45-mile run.
Yeah,
So
I was going to say
just
30, 40 miles at least.
yeah, it's a 45-mile run. It's Bush's Landing, and that's an area that it can hold fish. It seems like it's a little more inconsistent than a lot of areas, but that can also be, you can have some 20-pound days there as well. I don't know if any of the elite guys will make a run that far. That's a pretty heavy commitment. That's going to be like, from Mobridge, you're probably looking at 90, probably close to 90 miles. But there's some I could see some guys fishing around the 212 bridge area and then saving their last 2 days and making that long run and getting further downriver by Bush's Landing or even the mouth of the Cheyenne.
Yeah.
If they have enough gas. Depends on which boat they have.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like it's not like you see these like huge runs at like Winya Bay and Sabine, but the thing is like there's places to get gas, and it's
Right.
shocking. But they're literally could you open a temporary like 1 week marina and sell gas to elite guys and make like just back a tank truck right down to the right here at Bush's Landing and be like, yeah, I'm licensed.
Just have like maybe some sort of like mobile gas station where you're like on a pontoon boat with a big old tank on it or something. Charge $10 a gallon.
That's the thing is like this place is an emerging fishery. It's got big smallies. It's got all the bait, and it's so vast that there definitely are untapped giant smallies.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And even like, the local guys, myself included, we're still learning.
Right.
We're still learning what this fishery even has. And I don't know that we've even tapped into, 10% of its potential, really, to be honest with you. And electronics are really helping us break it down and learn it and figure it out, There's a lot of us, it's kind of well, you've been there before. It's a pretty vast area. Like there's not a whole lot up there. So you can go 10 miles and not see another boat, not see another house, not see anything that is living. Maybe other than like some bushes.
It's like the moon with smallmouth.
Yeah. But it's just a gorgeous area. I love it up there. The water is just gorgeous. It's pretty, pretty blue water. Got a little green tint to it. Just just nice, clean, clear water. Man, it's good. If you need water therapy, it's a good place. I just wish it wasn't like 3.5 hours away from my house. Otherwise I go there more often than I do, but it's a lot of fun. There's a lot to learn there.
So have there been many tournaments out of Mobridge? Do your guys' circuits ever go there? Or is that a place tournaments don't really go out of? Or
it is, last year was the very first time out of all of my years of fishing, which would be, I've been tournament fishing for about 14, 15 years now. That was the first time we ended up out of Mobridge. And that was a Bass Federation event. The Bass Nation events have always launched out of Spring Creek or Cow Creek, which is just one up from Spring. But majority of the time it's downriver, down like where the elites launched out of when they were here in 2019. So Mobridge is pretty new. There's a lot there that is untapped, and it's predominantly a walleye fishery. When people say Lake Oahe, they aren't thinking smallmouth. A lot of times they're thinking walleye. Let's go for trophy walleye, because there's big walleye in there. There's a lot of 10+ pound walleye in that fishery. But when people say Mobridge, smallmouth is not the first thing that's on the back of their mind. It's walleye. So, but the smallmouth are up there, and they're getting real healthy.
Yeah. So I mean, like honestly, the handful of guys that fished there last time, it's almost going to be useless. They're taking off so far away that unless they basically ran as far north as they could during that tournament, that will be about as far south as they can go because of gas.
Yep.
Like it's almost like a brand new fishery, basically. So the people that are complaining about, hey, we're going back to the same fishery, you're really not. You're basically going to a new fishery.
That's a very true statement, because the other thing that, and it's too early for us to tell right now, but the other thing that we need to take into account is water levels. So when we were there just a couple weeks ago, the water was down like 10 foot from like its normal summer pool. So that's really going to, you can pretty much throw away about 75% of all your waypoints when the water fluctuates that much, because them fish are in totally different areas.
Sure.
They might be on different points or slid off. They might be on the same points but slid way off in a different spot that you normally catch them, where you thought you had a hot spot rock pile on this one point, and next thing you know, it's in 2 foot instead of 10 or 12. It's no good anymore. So you gotta kind of relearn it when you go there. And I can't remember which article it was that I read. I don't know. I think it was maybe like Greg Hackney was saying like, hey, I erase all my waypoints. Like I don't even go back, I don't even keep waypoints. I just go back and I learn whatever the pattern is. I want to learn what the pattern is. I want to go back and fish the same spots that, held fish 7 years ago when I was there. So it could very well be, it's a whole, like you said, it's a whole new lake. It's a whole new ball game.
I don't know. Maybe if I went back there, my waypoints would be good this time.
Yeah, it could very well be, and day to day, smallmouth or, anybody who's chased smallmouth here knows that, here one day, gone the next. The notorious joke is, when you really get into smallies, put a waypoint on the graph and never go back.
Yeah, avoid that spot. That spot's burned.
So, but no, with the way, especially the summer patterns, majority of the time, them fish, they, when you kind of find them in an area, they don't go too terrible far, and they really school up big time. So, I think it'll be, there's going to be a lot of guys that are going to be running down. I don't know. I don't think there's going to be very many guys running up. I could be very, very wrong, but there's going to be a lot more guys running down, I believe, than there are guys running up.
Sure. So have you thought this through, that all you have to do is go to lacrosse, right, and do well, move to nationals, and win nationals, then you can fish an Elite Series event on one of your home bodies of water.
That's it, Rich. That's
pretty much that. It's really just laid out that easy. I don't know if you thought that through or not.
Yeah, I have. As much as I want to get in the elites, but that's what we all fish for, right? That's the cool thing about the Bass Nation opportunity that we have. Just fishing the nation, we all have that opportunity, and that's all you can ask for, is to have a shot, and you do your best. You put yourself in those positions to make the most of what you got. Maybe some divine intervention along the way, and you never know.
Yeah, I mean, and then you can get. So I mean, there'd be all kinds of things, right? Welcome, Thomas. Good to see you. Better late than never. But right, so I mean, you can go to lacrosse, do well, and then I'm not sure where nationals is, but then you win that, and then you can get revenge on Hartwell all at the same time. So it just lays out like a movie script when you think about it.
Yeah, that's well, yeah, that yeah, I mean, it's there. I mean, the opportunity's there. Just you think about it, we're only 2 good tournaments away from having a chance.
Yeah, and I'm sure none of you. I mean, I'm sure all your South Dakota buddies will just roll over at lacrosse and let you move on, right?
They're not that easy on me. They're going to be gunning for it too. So I'm gonna have to bring my A game.
Didn't they change the rules now? You can't like hang out in lacrosse for like a month beforehand, right?
That's the good thing, because we have a lot of guys that have too much paid time off apparently. And when I got up to Lake Vermilion, there last year, there was one of the guys on our team. He's like, "I've been here for 13 days." I said, 13 days? Holy cow! So it gets to be, it's tough to compete with guys who, have every rock memorized on the, on all them different bodies of water there. So it's kind of nice that they did level the playing field a bit. In a way, it'll help a lot of guys, because a lot of guys, they're history fishers, and that actually hurts them more than it helps them, to be there that amount of time. But some guys who know how to utilize that time and make the right decisions when it comes to game day, those are your better anglers. Those are your anglers who, it's not just a one day, oh yeah, I had one good day and I'm moving on. It's 3 days, and you got to duke it out for 3 days, and you got to make decisions and make it happen. And up at Lake Vermilion is Eric Storms. I mean, he put together 3 phenomenal days and dang near won the whole tournament. And so he was dialed in, and he made the right adjustments. Had an area where he was catching largemouth, and his fish were there for him. But he put his time in. That's the thing. He was there, put his time in, and he was rewarded. So this time, you just never know. I mean, you got 3 days to try and figure it out. I'm going to go, my buddy Dinger and I, we're going to run down and spend a couple days there here in a couple weeks. I think, next weekend? Maybe next weekend before the cutoff. And just kind of cruise around, burn gas, just try and figure out, like, navigation there is pretty wild in some areas. So hopefully I come back with a lower unit.
Nice. Yeah, funny thing is, so Eric started on a hump every morning that was about 200 yards from the dock of the cabin I was staying at.
Oh, is that right?
So when I made the day 3 cut, and I talked to the guys, and they're like, "Yeah, that South Dakota guy, he was right there, and he caught like 16 pounds in the morning." And then I was like, "Wow, guess that was right under our nose, and we didn't see it."
Yeah, that's awesome. Eric's a good dude.
Almost my entire practice chasing what I thought would be the holy grail on the west side of that lake for almost the entire practice. And then basically just went and fished other stuff during the tournament. Like, I spent all my time searching all these like remote places looking for a mix of shallow largemouth and smallies that would be I was hoping to find like a couple stretches like where I could hit like one each day and cash in, and get like 17, 18 pounds each day.
Right.
And I never found it. And I basically just scrapped it all and started over again in the tournament.
Yep.
Thomas, Horseshoe might not be the best choice if you want a South Dakota record. I don't know. I think there's better places.
It's Horseshoe. Horseshoe is, it's hit and miss, but I still believe there is a state record in there right now. It's got a ton of pressure on it ever since Lyle caught that fish in there. And actually, it's kind of crazy because I've been fishing it since about 2007, 2008. And it has gotten just pummeled. It really has. It used to be a lake where you could go to and be the only boat there the whole entire day. And we had a couple small club tournaments on it, and we'd be the only boats there. It might be one other guy come in with a tin boat and try and catch some walleye. But we had several times there up until maybe about 2014-ish, 2015, right in there. All of a sudden, and then 2016 when Lyle caught that record, it just, we had, you had guys like Milliken coming up and getting on YouTube all over, and next thing you know, you'd show up and you'd have out-of-state plates from everywhere, and it's like, this is a tiny little lake. This is not, this isn't Mille Lacs or some large, huge lake. This is like a puddle jumper lake, but it's got giant fish in it, So I think there's still some sevens in there. Is there a state record? There very well could be. Is there more 7-pounders in Oahe right now? Oh yeah,
for sure. But they're a little more spread out too.
Yeah, they spread out. And Lake Sharp, Lake Sharp's another one that people don't hear about. Lake Sharp is the pool down from Oahe, and that one's got some big fish in it. I was just, my buddy Dinger, he was out just this past weekend, and him and his buddy that he went with, they caught a 6.5-pounder, out of Lake Sharp. And Lake Sharp, somebody speared, what was it, the actual South Dakota state record smallmouth that was speared was out of Lake Sharp. It was like 8 pounds. So yeah, there's big ones in there. They dodge all the walleye anglers. Them walleye guys, they really like to load the boat and hit the cleaning stations with a bunch of walleye and then supplemented brown fish. So we got a lot of meat hunters in that part of the state. But the river, thankfully, the river is the size it is. Otherwise, it wouldn't hold up.
I couldn't imagine eating a 5-pound plus smallie. Like, that just can't even be good.
Oh, they do it all the time. All the time.
I mean, like, a 12 to 14-inch smallie is probably delicious, but like anything over 4 pounds just sounds disgusting. Like, just thick, gross.
Yeah.
But Tim, the state record was 7.3, and now it's 7.4, 7.4 and a half, I think. Just caught 12 days ago by Troy here. Look, Lyle's here. What's up, Lyle?
Yeah, there he is.
The former record holder. He's probably going to get hungry. He's probably sharpening the hooks on his Alabama rig and getting ready for April right now.
Yeah, he messaged me. He messaged me after I caught it and told me congrats. And I was kind of curious if he was getting ready. I tagged
him in your Facebook post as soon as I saw it.
Oh, did you? He probably had his bags packed, and he was headed back out. He was headed back out to see what he could do.
Maybe Lyle has like a Google alert. He might have it like set up on his phone.
Yeah. Too funny.
Former Nebraska angler Steve Basinger checking in, saying congrats.
Oh, hey Steve. Thanks, man. That's awesome. Yeah, I think he moved away. I can't remember where he moved to, but he's
Illinois or something.
Yeah. He's in the military, supporting us.
I have not seen Castledine's latest video. Sounds like they're still catching them. Nice. Plenty of shots about Randy Blockett in the chat. That's always funny. That's all right. Randy can take the heat. Cool. So I don't know what else is. So you got lacrosse coming up. What else is going on? If people have questions for Troy or about smallmouth, let's run through those. Kind of open it up. If anybody's got any questions, the chat's been had its own conversations going on. There hasn't been a lot of questions, but if anybody's got any questions for Troy or myself, next week I will be down at Wabasha Pool 4 on the river. From for our state Bass Nation state tournament. So excited for that. Hoping to get on some good bites, maybe some frog bites, maybe some smallies. We'll see. What made Green Lake so tough? I made Green Lake tough on myself. I'll be honest. I went in with the mentality hoping to get on a shallow smallmouth bite. Like, I'm sure you got lakes out there, Troy, where in bright sunny days, them smallmouth get a little silly and they come up in like 3-4 feet of water and get on shallow boulders, and you can stock them and play with them, and you can put together a huge bag doing that. And Green Lake's not a huge lake, but it's a decent sized lake, and I was only going to have like a day and a quarter to pre-fish. And I thought, well, I'd never really been there before, so I was like, I'm going to go out there and test the shallow bite and see if I can make that work, because I probably can't outlearn all these guys in a day that I've fished it a bunch of times. So I thought, I'm a pretty decent shallow angler. I hold my own, and I got a couple. I got like 3 to 4 pound bites the first night in like 2 hours, and I was like, I'm all in. And I spent the entire next day marking shallow boulders and shaking off fish and catching a few. And I found one weed spot where I could catch a quick limit for largemouth in the morning. So I was like, I'm going to catch a quick limit, put 8-10 pounds in the boat, so then I can just be like, I got 5, and then I can just like focus, right?
Yep.
So day 1, caught my limit, 8-9 pounds. Spent 6 hours fishing for smallies and caught one that weighed 1 pound 3 ounces. I was very stubborn. I stuck to it. Like, I stuck to my guns and didn't go. I spent the last hour. I got up to like 10 pounds, went back to the same spot, caught a few more largemouth. Day 2, did the same thing, rinse and repeat, didn't adjust. And I basically, the way I practiced, I didn't allow myself to any wiggle room to get out of that. So that's what went down. And the guys that caught him were live scoping on the breaks.
Okay.
Thank you, Sean, for the super chat. That's awesome. But we're never getting a proper visor, because, like, if you had a sweet trucker hat like this one, why would you cut the top off it? I mean, the memories. I still have like the insert, like the paperboard in there.
Nice.
You didn't have any of that free old Milwaukee when we were there, did you? Did you partake?
No, I didn't. I didn't visit the tent. No, I didn't.
Such a good kid, Troy.
Yeah.
Yes, he is going to be at Boji. He will be there. Cool. Any other questions? So you got any other big tournaments coming up besides lacrosse, or is it like that's your big next thing, or what else you got going on this fall?
Yeah, so I got 3 big ones left. Well, I shouldn't say big, but I mean they're important tournaments. I got Boji coming up. That's the semifinal. That's September. I got lacrosse coming up in September. That's the Bass Nation regional, and then I have 1 state championship left on the bass side of things that I need to get my rear in gear for, because I stubbed my toe a bit at the first one. We do 2 state championships in the state of South Dakota on the Bass Nation side, and so yeah, I think I'm like what am I? I'm like, there's like a crazy tie for like 4th or 5th place. I think there's like 4 or 5 guys tied for 4th or 5th place. So we'll I'm gonna have to make sure I'm on my A game for that one. That's at Lake Sharp. So that could be interesting. Late. I want to say it's like late September, like 3 or 4. It's like the 3rd or 4th weekend in September. So that could be interesting. Those fish could be, it could be all over the place. A lot of times they'll get on the West Bend Flats. That can be pretty good. If they're pulling current, there could be a lot of current fish position on current. There could be some stubborn drop shot fish left. You just go out and burn a rattle trap for 8 hours a day. So awesome. Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, it was cool. I met Eric down at Pickwick, so that was cool. Got to talk to him a little bit down there. He's a cool dude.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, unfortunately, he just lost his dad here. Just, I think about a week ago, maybe actually probably about 10 days ago. So, man, you're in our thoughts and prayers, Eric. Cheering you on. I wish you the best, dude. Tough times, but um, better times ahead. Better times ahead. Good memories. Um, glad I got to meet your dad.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, shout out Eric. So what? Yeah, what are your hot baits right now besides the Ned rig as you go into fall? Sean wants to
What is
know.
my rotation of baits? Oh man. So there's a lot of factors there. On the river, I guess let's go with the river.
Sure.
Because it'll change majorly if we're on a lake somewhere, or chasing greenfish for that matter. Rotation of baits, really. So I try and keep a pretty open mind when it comes to that, because I've found that I can really get caught in a rut and just throw the same thing over and over. I know I can catch fish on a drop shot like pretty much anywhere. Um, but I want to challenge myself a little bit to I like to push myself a little bit to try and make sure that I'm not history fishing. History fishing, not necessarily spots, but history fishing baits. So I try to really key in on what the fish are telling me. I know it sounds weird, but you can learn a lot just by spending some time out, not even fishing, just kind of cruising around. And if you see, like, all of a sudden you see a whole school of bait, some shad or something flickering on the surface, like, hey, you know, maybe like a rattle trap just burning through those, through those schools. Um, maybe you throw a tube. That's a big thing on the river. You throw a tube, and those when that tube is sinking down, that's a lot of times when the fish will grab it. And then there's a lot of different things you can do within that. Say like a tube and a trap, you can go from as light as a quarter-ounce trap, so you're riding high in the column, throwing tiny little traps, or you can get a 7/8 ounce or a 1 ounce trap, and long bomb that thing way 80 yards out there, 90 yards out there, and just make a real long cast and get that bait down in the column. So you can adjust your retrieve to reflect the depth that you think the fish are at. With tubes, you can do the same thing. So you can throw a Gets It tube, you can throw a 2.5-inch tube on say like a eighth ounce on an eighth ounce weight. I did that in 2011. That's how I won, my very first state championship, was throwing a little tiny Gets It tube with like an eighth ounce weight. And and this last event I was at, I was throwing a half ounce tube, and the tube was a Magnum tube. It was like a 4.5-inch Magnum tube, but they wanted that rate of fall, that faster rate of fall, because the bait fish were, they were moving. And so it didn't give them fish a lot of time to think. The other thing you can do with alternating baits like that, throwing a 4.5-inch Magnum tube. I wasn't catching 2-pounders. If you were going to catch a fish, it was going to be at least 3.5 pounds or bigger. So you can start to, especially on a lake like Oahe, or really anywhere on the Missouri River, sizing your baits to, if you can throw a tube all day, a Magnum tube all day, it's almost like committing to a swim bait. Like, a lot of times you're throwing a swim bait, or even like a frog, you're committing to a bait like that. You might only get like 5 to 10 bites a day, but those are going to be the right bites that are going to get you, up in the, they're going to get you a good bag at the scales. So, rotation of baits, I try not to just like have one rotation, but I mean, I always have a drop shot tied on. I always have a Ned rig tied on, but I always I'm kind of I like to investigate things a little bit. I probably think about things a little bit too much, when I'm supposed to be sleeping, I'm thinking like, okay, what kind of bait can I modify or conjure up that I can throw something new that nobody else is doing?
He's like waking up
So,
at 4 a.m. He's like, I gotta go find a 5XD. I think that's gonna get a deal.
you just never know,
You'd be
you
like,
know.
honey, I'll be right back, but I gotta go tie on this crankbait or I'll forget.
Yeah, I've done that too, where like I'll just have so much stuff running through my mind. I got to write it down, and it's oh, funny. You got DeForest on here, one of the Bass Tank guys. That's cool. How's it going, DeForest?
Yeah, what's up, man?
I
Thanks for joining in.
I met him when I went down. I visited them guys back down in the spring, and DeForest was one of the guys in the shop there, filling people's orders, and so that's cool. Thanks for joining. But yeah, no, I really don't have like one set of baits, and you can even ask like I'm an absolute trip in the boat. I mean, I got 20 at any time. I got like 22 or 24 rods that I run with. I got like 7 or 8 spinning rods, and then and then I got like 15 or 16 bait casters, and they're all rigged up and ready to rock and roll. I'll stay up till like 11 o'clock, 11:30 the night before a tournament, and just tie a bunch of weird stuff on, because you never know, you might run into a situation where, well, gosh, I wish I had a spoon tied on, but in a tournament you're not gonna take the time like, oh, I'm gonna tie on a spoon because I wonder if they'd hit this. You kind of got your baits that you're like, I know what I can catch fish on, and this is what I'm gonna stick to. But unless you're really struggling and you gotta throw something else at them. But
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Like, I might look like I'm dialed on the right, like 3 or 4 rods on the deck, but in the rod locker there are like 20 more rods that are rigged for like every scenario in the world.
yeah, it's I get that a lot. Why you got how many rods do you have? Well, I mean, you really need that many? Like, well, how many shoes you got? How many pairs of shoes you got?
Would you play a golf club with a 7-iron? Would you play a whole course? No, I mean,
Right.
So when you're talking about tubes, is it all like exposed tubes? Is that kind of what you guys do out there on the river?
Yeah, we do. We just do the open hook tube. A lot of guys throw the football head, jig inside the tube. That's the majority of it. There's not a lot of wood, so there's not a lot of vegetation, so there's not really a need to be, Texas rig or stupid tubing or anything like that. But yeah.
I think you mentioned that you caught the record on a Dobbins. Are all your rods Dobbins? And
yeah. Yep, I throw predominantly Dobbins. I'm sponsored by Dobbins, sponsored by Luz as well, and I've taken on some of the Luz rods as well, just more so to educate myself on what they offer, more so on the ultralight side. So actually, wife and I have 2 little girls, and we do a fair amount of pan fishing in the late fall. And so I have some ultralight setups, some of the stuff that Luz offers in the ultralights that and I don't feel so bad if a $30 or $40 rod gets broke versus a $200 rod.
So, I actually got a couple of the Colt panfish rods.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah.
I got a couple Colts, but I don't have any of the panfish ones yet. So I'm gonna have to get on the saddle and check them out. Were them just released last year?
2 years ago, maybe.
2 years ago. Okay.
Yeah, and then let's see. Sean had one more question. He said, "Where do you like to start with your drop shot leader? What's your like? Where do you like let the bait, what you see in the screen, dictate, or do you just like start at a foot or 2 feet, or what? How do you approach setting that leader?"
Yeah, so like on lakes where you have a lot of bait fish, I've learned that predominantly the smallies or the bass are feeding up. So if I'm on a body of water and they have a lot of bait fish, I will and I'm throwing a bait fish mimicking plastic on my drop shot, I'll go as long as 3 foot on my leader. And then, I just kind of experiment and play around from there. But a lot of times, there's times where I don't even know if it even matters, but I've found that, for me, what seems to work better is that longer leader. If there's lakes that have a lot of bait fish or a river that has a lot of bait fish, that longer leader for me is kind of where I start. And if I can't get much going on that, I'll experiment, and you can always shorten it. You can never really add length to it very, very easily. So, but good question.
In general, longer and then shorten it.
Mm-hmm.
Who's Duncan? I don't know. It depends on the lake. Bigger bass in the mats or deep? I don't know. That all body of water specific.
Yeah. Yep. Either or. I mean, that's. I assume he's talking. I assume he's talking largemouth, but it's really going to depend on the time of year, and it's really going to depend on what the bluegill are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. But if I had my choice, I'd prefer to catch them out of a mat.
Yeah.
You're probably the opposite. You'd probably rather catch them on a drop shot in 20 feet of water.
Yeah, I mean, being on the Missouri River a lot, it's pretty tough to beat sometimes. When you get them going on that drop shot, the light lining tactics. I mean, there's a few like oddball things that I like to do, mix it up every once in a while. Spy baiting is one of the things that, it can be pretty deadly if you get on, if you get the right day where things are pretty tough, your other tactics aren't working, you throw that spy bait out and start getting bit on it, something the fish haven't seen, or you get in an area that's been beat up for a day or two, and you drag out the spy bait and you can do pretty well. Finesse cranks, sometimes throwing a real small crankbait. That's another thing that, you can just change some things up, just keep milling around. If you're in the right area and there's fish in the area, just keep trying tactics.
Right on. Well, it seems like we've answered almost everybody's question. If you guys came late, definitely catch the replay on Facebook or YouTube, wherever you're watching it. We go in depth on how the story and the lowdown of how Troy caught the record just like 2 weeks ago. So make sure you catch that. If you'd prefer, you can search HellaBass on your favorite podcast app and listen to it while you're driving to the lake or walking the dog or whatever you do. And shout out to Tim and Sean for basically having their own show in the chat this afternoon. They're just like lighting it up.
I couldn't keep up, so if they were asking questions, I'm sorry. I probably missed a bunch of them. But yeah, if they were just chatting with each other, having a word battle.
Yeah, so thanks for coming on, Troy. I don't know if there's anything else you want to shout out or mention, but don't want to keep you all night. I got plenty of stuff to get done before I take off for another week of fishing myself.
Gotcha. Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate all the fans joining on. Thanks, guys. Go catch some fish, tight lines to you.
Yeah, and hopefully somehow I get to see you in La Crosse. So
it could happen. It could happen
still. We can say prayers for Eric's dad and his family, but we can also say prayers and try to get HellaBass into the Northern Divisional.
There we go. Sounds good to me. I'd like to see you there.
Nice. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, like, comment, subscribe, and always here to help you guys catch more big bass and suck less.